The Season 4 leaderboard is Anderson. He's 1-0 thus far as he does walk into this round with a bye. However, he's going to be playing against a Tarka Red this round. So this is a real test right here, right off the bat. This isn't exactly a finals rematch from last week, but it's pretty gosh darn close.
Yeah, this is a slightly different build of a Tarka Red. 4 copies of Exquisite Firecraft in the deck, which Demars did not have, and a little bit less of the pump spell action. Only 1 copy to become immense, 2 Titan Strength.
Yeah, that was the question, right? You know, are players like Okowita going to dial back here on the pump spells because now people know that they're coming? You know, if people know that Titan Strength become immense and Teamer Battle Rage are coming, how powerful are they? He's decided not powerful enough and dialing it back and has a little bit more direct damage.
Yeah, exactly. So trying to be able to beat people who are overloading on cheap removal spells, maybe even anticipating something like Dispel becoming popular, because Demars' winning deck is vulnerable to Dispel.
Yes.
And it's not just because he has a lot of instants, it's that a lot of times he's trying to chain together multiple instances in the same turn. If you're trying to go for Become Immense and Teamer Battle Rage, well, you counter the Become Immense, and now the Teamer Battle Rage basically doesn't do anything.
It stinks, yeah. Okowita does have a Wild Slash to take care of the ward in the first tree as round number 2 is underway here from Atlanta. We'll see if he does have a creature to play as he'll sacrifice, I believe, a Wooded Foothills, fall down to 18. There's a second mountain, so now any fetch lands will likely search up Cinderglades. A play pattern we saw from Demars quite a bit. Only 2 Cinderglades here in Okowita's deck.
Yeah, his mana base is different. I mean, this is still a Tarka Red, but there's a lot of different stuff going on here. 4 copies of McKinney's Slide Runner. I believe Demars only had the 1. Only 8 fetch lands here and no forest for Okowita, whereas Demars had Windswept Heaths and a forest for a little bit of extra fetch land. And the big difference being 4 copies of Exquisite Firecraft for Okowita and fewer copies of the pump spells.
It's a face-up Den Protector here for Chris. Just looking to trade early and often in this matchup. Don't want to get run out. There's another copy of Wild Slash. Here comes the Slide Runner, but no land was played. So just a boring old attack for 2, and Okowita will pass the turn back over to Anderson. Anderson will draw a card. It's a copy of Hidden Dragon Slayer. He does have access to white mana here in Windswept Heath, which can find either the white-blue land in Prairie Stream or the green-white land there in Canopy Vista.
Anderson's also moved in 1 main deck copy of Evolutionary Leap. We saw this card do a ton of work for Majors last weekend. In any of the mid-range to control matchups, this is not a place where you want it, unfortunately for Anderson. Game is determined a little bit too quickly for Evolutionary Leap to be a player.
Windswept Heath will be sacrificed here by Chris. He'll go a little bit lower. We'll see which land he wants to search up. You have to imagine it's going to be a battle land, and it is Canopy Vista. He's down to 16. And now we'll see what the play is. Does have a copy of Hidden Dragon Slayer in hand. Also has a copy of Get In, though he's not there just yet. And it will be a morphed Hidden Dragon Slayer. After Okowita does shuffle Anderson's deck, we'll be heading back his way. And it's a 3rd copy of Wild Slash there by Alex. And now it's time for him to draw. We'll see what's next here for him in just a moment. He's got an Abbott. A lot of good hits here. Abbott not being one of them.
I get a feeling that land there was a real prize.
Well, he does have one in his hand, fortunately for him. It's a fetch land. That'll trigger the Slide Runner, as will the land that comes from the fetch land as well. So it'll be an attack here for at least 4 as he gets a Cinderglade. Abbott, very impressive for Demars last weekend.
For sure.
Just a generally impressive card, honestly.
And it's really interesting how good it was for Demars, because you'd imagine he would get into spots all the time where he would flip over a pump spell he either couldn't cast or maybe he wasn't really ready to do very much with. His deck didn't even look like it was trying to maximize Abbott, and it was still great for him when we watched him on camera.
Anderson will draw a copy of Hangerback Walker. He'll play Lumbering Falls. Now here comes Hangerback. Lumbering Falls good in combination with Gideon and his Emblem. And just a generally pretty good land, assuming it's a freebie in your deck. You know, right now, entering the battlefield tapped, it's unclear how much damage that's doing to Chris. But, you know, if you do work your way into longer games like this deck is trying to do, not the worst thing we've ever seen.
Though we are seeing the cost that Chris is paying here.
Yes.
He has the 1 Evolutionary Leap in his hand, not the matchup for it. he doesn't have double white right now for the Gideon that's in his hand, and he just had a land come into play tap, which prevented him from making the Hangerback Walker or 2/2. You do not have a lot of margin for error against a Tarka Red, so it wouldn't surprise me if this added up to being the difference between him winning and losing game one.
Exquisite Firecraft appears to be going upstairs to Anderson. Now here come the beatdowns.
And Hangerback Walker here has a 1/1, can't profitably block anything. There's a landfall trigger, and there's a prowess trigger, so this is just a chump block.
Yep. And that's exactly what you talked about. If that land, Lumbering Falls, entered the battlefield untapped, different story here.
If he's able to play Gideon last turn, or if he just made a 2/2 Hangerback Walker, this looks very different.
Yep.
Not a lot of margin for error, and Anderson's paying all these little costs right now, and it might add up to something he can't overcome.
Got a Thopter token on the way. Now we're going to go over to Anderson. I just draw a copy of Plains, which is fairly helpful.
It's one of the better draws right now.
Now, can he afford to just tap out for Gideon? It's almost like he has no choice, because he does have Jabrocka's command. I'm sure he'd like to be able to leave that up and do some fun tricks with that, but currently unable.
And worrisome here for Anderson is Okowita missed, we missed his third land drop earlier on in the game. His hand's got to just be a bunch of spells.
Yep.
We'll see what they are, but...
Well, you certainly know if he's drawing lands because he will be playing them.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Slide runner.
There's no bad draws in Okowita's deck right now. Lands are fine and spells are fine.
Well, there is a mountain. Untriggered landfall. Here's a Hordling Outburst. Card we did not see from Damar's last week, but Okowita actually has 4 copies, so he's definitely changed some things up here. You see him playing that pre-combat because he wants to get the prowess trigger from the Abbot, which he does. Gideon's token will trade with the Abbot, and then some damage will come across. Anderson down to 2 now. Flooded Strand the draw here for Chris. He'll play that land.
So on the table, Anderson is not dead because Jabrocka's command will allow him to manage 3 creatures next turn. He has 2 blocks, plus he can fight something.
Yep. I'm going to play a copy of Evolutionary Leap right now and just pass the turn back with Jabrocka's command at the ready. There's a land. Here come the beatdowns. I believe Okowita empty-handed at this point. Chris is going to do some blocking. He'll also get to do a little bit of fighting. So he's going to put a +1/+1 counter there. And these creatures will fight. Anderson staying alive. He'll take 1, fall down to 1.
But he has Gideon in play with a creature in play against 2 creatures. So, again, on the table, he's okay.
Picked up a copy of Valorous Stance. Not exactly what the doctor ordered. There's the ally token. Now, one of the nice things, I suppose, is that our Tarka Red doesn't have as much burn anymore. But also, Okowita has added a little bit of burn to his deck, so... Looks like Chris is going to activate Lumbering Falls and sacrifice this to Evolutionary Leap. Lumbering Falls not doing a lot right now.
And I think Anderson just would much rather spend his mana casting creatures. So instead of sitting back on Lumbering Falls, he gets to just convert it into a creature he can cast. Because if he needs Lumbering Falls as a blocker, that commits him to 5 mana.
Well, Ward of the First Tree is not a bad find here. Anderson's drawn a Plains, which is actually a pretty good draw, too. Weird to have a land be a decent draw here, but the ability to play Warden, have some more mana to dump into it, all that jazz, not a bad spot. And I think Chris might start trying to get on the offensive here, too, which I like. He's got to try to win.
Yeah, he can't wait all day.
Gideon's going to make another ally. Chris has got his defenses up. He's just got to fade some draw steps here from Alex. It's a scary spot. And the other thing, too, is Chris thinks he knows what he's playing against, right? I'm playing a Stark Red, you probably just copied Damar's deck list, whatever, move on with my life. That's not exactly the case here. There's Monastery Swift Spear. There is no Teamer Battle Reach on the other side of the table. That's not a card that Anderson has to worry about. But he doesn't know that. Warden's going to pump. It'll be level 1. It's a 3/3 right now. Flooded Strand the draw. Not going to be very helpful. I'm very curious if Chris is just going to go to lifelink mode here with the Warden.
I would. I mean, you get in one hit, now you're out of Wild Slash range. Okowita's already played 3, but there's still 1 hanging out on the deck. And if you hit the following turn, then Exquisite Firecraft doesn't kill you, and then Okowita is probably drawing very slim.
And it is a level 2 ward at this point. Anderson going to gain some life. There is the Strand. Gideon will make another ally. Now, keep in mind, Chris, that turn, he could have chosen to make an emblem with Gideon to be able to gain 4 life and push himself up to 5. So he is still in range of Exquisite Firecraft.
Well, I guess the concern is, does something like Hordeling Outburst allow him to go wide around the blockers? But I agree with you. It does seem like a priority for Anderson to get to 5 or higher because you've seen Exquisite Firecraft. You don't know how many copies are in the list. Okowita happens to be playing with 4, actually, so it's got a fair number of them. But once you get out of range of 1 burn spell, Anderson's advantage in resources right now is overwhelming. He just has to make sure he doesn't get killed out of nowhere.
Well, we'll see if he can keep it going. He's definitely making a nice comeback right now. That much is for sure.
Yeah, he was on the ropes here at a couple spots. Had to fade some draw steps, but
it appears he's done as much, even to the point now where
top rope.
I think so.
We're down to the top shelf.
I think so. I'm a little interested if I'm Chris. I'm a little hesitant because if I crack my fetch, go down to 3, I could die Tarkus command. So I'm a little hesitant, but I don't know. I think I might go to the top.
The thing is, if Okowita has a Tarkus command, you find out right now because he's just going to go deal 3 damage to you and prevent life gain. So I don't think there's any reason to get risky here. Because if this happens, if Anderson goes up to 7, he should be in the clear.
Yeah.
Okowita can still cobble together some odd sequences, but you'd imagine he's fine.
Well, it looks like he is going to go up to 7 now. And now it does feel like Chris is kind of in the clear here.
Yeah. And that's why I appreciate Anderson not going for broke on that attack. Because this is probably a winning position. And cracking the fetch land there, going to 3, that's an easy way to get killed.
Did draw a Death Mist Raptor for the turn, but he's just going to pass the turn back. And we could see Chris maybe try to go for a lethal attack next turn. Gideon's Emblem could work its way into the equation, all that good stuff. Anderson was behind very, very early in this game. Fell all the way down to 1, but smart play from Chris pretty early on in the game of sacrificing the Lumbering Falls to the Evolutionary Leap. Here come the attackers. Chris, yeah, I'm blocking immediately. Looks like all these creatures are getting taken care of. It was a desperation attack there from Okowita. It did not work, and Chris Anderson's going to win game number 1 here over Alex Okowita. Van Megamorph up a game here over Atarka Red, and a heck of a comeback there thanks to the Warden.
Yeah, that was a very well-played game there from Anderson. Dangerous territory for sure, and the way that he built his deck definitely makes it worse for this matchup, but was able to get out of game 1, and now should be in pretty good shape going to the sideboard of games.
Well, to the sideboards we are going to go, and we will start with Alex Okowita. He's got 3 Scab Clan Berserkers, 4 copies of Roast, 2 Boiling Earth, 2 Touch of the Void, 2 Outpost Siege, a Heel Cutter, and an Arc Lightning.
I like the Heel Cutter and the 2 copies of Touch of the Void as an answer to Hangerback Walker and Exiling being generally valuable here. Roast, I don't think is great for this matchup. Anderson's got a lot of interchangeable creatures. There's nothing that's particularly hard to kill. So I think Roast is going to too much removal spells, but I like Heel Cutter and Touch of the Void.
What do we see here for Chris Anderson?
2 Dispel, 2 Disdainful Stroke, a Negate, 2 Stratus Dancer, 2 Surge of Righteousness, 2 copies of Evolutionary Leap, a Master of the Unseen, Basic Island, Stasis Snare, and Citadel Siege. I think you're going to see the 2 copies of Dispel alongside the Negate and the 2 copies of Surge of Righteousness. I think those easily come in. I think the Stratus Dancers they're not bad for this matchup, and Anderson does have some not efficient cards to cut. I don't know if he's going to bring in 7 cards here, but if he wants more anti-spell measures, then Stratus Dancer is slow but tolerable.
Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 2. Alex Okowita will be on the play, and we'll talk about the Season 4 schedule here on the Open Series. We're in Atlanta this weekend. We'll be crowning a champion here soon enough, where someone's walking out here with $5,000, 25 Open Series points, and an invite to our Season 4 Invitational in Las Vegas. We take a week off next week for the Pro Tour, and then we're going to St. Louis.
Yeah, we go to St. Louis for some post-ban update Legacy, then Modern in Dallas, Standard in Philadelphia. After that, we have the Sealed Grand Prix. You can get more information already at StarCityGames.com/GP Atlanta, November 13th through the 15th. A Standard Open Series event in Kansas City, Legacy in New Jersey, Standard in Denver. Then the Season 4 Invitational in Las Vegas, Nevada. Standard and Modern as the Invitational formats with a 2-day $20,000 Standard Open Series event, December 11th through the 13th. And then a week later, close out the year, Players Championship, Roanoke, Virginia, at the Star City Games headquarters.
December 19th through the 20th is going to be that fantastic tournament. But for all these Open Series events that are taking place before the Invitational, you can get this bad boy. It's Hoppin' Rabbit Master. It's our Season 4 playmat. And it's simple stuff. You sign up for the main event, you're getting one of these.
Yeah, any of the 2-day $20,000 Open Series events through the Open Series event in Denver, December the 5th. You sign up, you get this playmat on site.
We get ready here for game number 2. Chris Anderson was able to come all the way back to win game number 1 there. It's been a heck of a run here for Chris, really all year long. He's number 18 here on our Season 4 leaderboard, 25 years old from Indianapolis. We were in his hometown last weekend. Didn't have a great weekend there, but he's had a really good weekend just about everywhere else.
Yeah, he's had a great season of playing in the Open Series events. A lot of top 8s to his name, a lot of top 16s as well, and has really turned it on here trying to get to the Players Championship.
Invitational top 8 earlier this year during Season 1. He was knocked out by Reed Duke. Well, he's knocked out many people in Invitationals, so not the worst thing to happen to Chris. 16 Open Series top 8s with 1 victory. 9-time Hearthstone legend. That is impressive. Voters lead singer of the rock band We Are Forever, and he started playing Magic at the young age of 4, which, trust me, I know to be true. I've known Chris for a very long time, and he's got quite the collection in his house.
Yeah, we've talked about, you know, some alpha, beta, Arabian Nights, Antiquities kind of chats. You know, we've had those. And one day it dawned upon me, Chris is a lot younger than I am. I'm surprised that he has that kind of background with the old Magic cards, but it just so happens that he started playing at an extremely young age. I think Reed Duke was another child prodigy.
A youngster.
Started playing very young.
Yep. Okowita will be on the play. See if he wants to keep his opening hand. 3 Wild Slashes last game, but he didn't have a 1-drop to start the game. And of course, when you're playing Tarka Red, you want to get things started off with Zergo, maybe a Lightning Berserker, Monastery Swiftspear.
Not a lot of 1-drops in Okowita's list, though.
Yeah.
Only 7.
Looks like Anderson's going to send his hand back.
And last year's red decks, there is a really good roster of 1-drops to choose from. So you were never really struggling. And people could even do things like play with only 2 or 3 copies of Zergo to avoid the legendary issue, because you had enough replaceable 1-drops to choose from. Now the pickings are a lot slimmer. I mean, you got Monastery Swiftspear. You can play 4 copies of that card pretty easily. And once you get past that, you know, you fall off a cliff in terms of quality. I think people need to start considering 3 or 4 copies of Zergo, at least for the time being, because there's just not the same critical mass of good 1-drops to choose from.
Hey, you got Swiftspear and you got Zergo, basically. And then Berserker, you know, I know DeMars didn't like that card very much last week, but it might be a card that you kind of almost have to play just to fill your curve.
Exactly.
Anderson, he doesn't like that hand. That's a quick mulligan, so he's going down to 5. Okowita is not gonna show that he's really happy, but he's happy.
Yeah.
He's happy. Red decks prey on stuff like this. If you are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, along with Nick Miller in the sideboard, doing your deck techs, picking your feature matches all weekend long. We are here in Atlanta at the Georgia World Congress Center. Same place Grand Prix Atlanta will be held. So we'll actually be back here, what, a month from now?
Yeah, I think this is pretty close to the Olympic Park. 96 Olympics were here, I believe.
Okay.
Is that right? 96, 92?
I think 96. I think 96. At SCG Live, hashtag SCGATL. For your tweets all weekend long, we're looking for questions from you at home. Any thoughts on the new standard format that you have? Chris, a big fan of Dispel here this weekend, basically going out of his way to splash that in the green-white Megamorph deck that Michael Matrix got 2nd place with. Some other blue cards in his sideboard as well, but Dispel is really the mainstay as far as the splash is considered. We're seeing some adaptations to some decks from last weekend. Saw Dylan Donegan and Jeskai Black to start off the day. He's made room for Complete Disregard, Tasker, and some other things. So players are already brewing here early this morning as we're underway here in game number 2.
Yeah, full 7 blue cards in Anderson's sideboard, even though main deck he's only got the 1 copy of Dispel. And they are all counter spells.
Yep. The Kitty Slide Runner there for Okowita. Now there's a hanger back walker for Chris. So that'll have a counter. Pass the turn back over to Alex. He'll untap and draw. Does he have a land to play is the question. It appears he does there in Wooded Foothills, a very good land to play. There's a Monastery Swift Spear. And now here come the beatdowns. So Okowita will sacrifice that Wooded Foothills. He'll fall down to 19. Time to search up a land, likely a Cinderglade. Again, 2 copies of that card in his main deck this weekend. That'll give him the green mana he's looking for in case he's drawn a Tarkus command or he become immense. Gotta love this fetch land, battle land synergy that takes place in this format. Mana's gonna be good for everybody. It's certainly gotten better for a Tarka Red. We saw that last weekend.
So to me, that's the biggest upgrade for the deck is, you don't have to play these mana confluences that damage your beatdown matchups. You don't have to play with a temple.
Here is a Tarkus command. We'll see +1/+1, a prowess trigger, of course. 3 damage likely to be dealt as well. So this is gonna be a pretty big hit.
Yeah, I'm counting 11 damage coming across right now.
And this was some of the major appeal of this deck. You hit for a lot. Prairie Stream the draw here for Anderson.
I'm getting better at a Tarkus command math.
Well, you play it so much in Modern, I would hope so.
Yes. Takes some time to get used to, but.
Hangerback Walker just hanging out, ready to pump. Anderson took quite the lick there. There's a Goblin Heel Cutter. Seen worse draws.
Yep. Though this is not really that bad news for Anderson. The goal here was just get to untap with Hangerback Walker and Dramoka's command at the ready. I mean, he has a lot of tolerance, a lot of ways to make combat work out well for him. The Heel Cutter does force the issue here. This is going to be good.
Yeah, it really is. Counter's going to resolve.
I imagine you use the command to fight the Heel Cutter. And then you actually have clean blocks across the table with your Thopters. And you get a Thopter left over for your troubles.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good here for Chris. So there's your fight. Get a counter as well. 3 Thopters will come out. Really get to just clear up the board. A little bit of trample damage, but that's okay.
Yep.
And once damage does resolve, Chris will be left over with just 1 Thopter token. You see him leave that on the battlefield very quickly. Swift Spear being a 1/2 after all. Can only kill 1 Thopter. And Anderson's done a very nice job on this turn as he takes a draw step here. So he will draw. Picked up a copy of Master of the Unseen. A little surprised to see that in after sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, this just has to be a life gain measure if he wants this card. It is very slow.
Prairie Stream will enter the battlefield untapped thanks to the 2 basic planes that are out there. Now there's a Warden. And Chris will pump right now. And I like pumping right now because you don't want to have to worry about Wild Slash.
Yeah, it sets him up next turn to do what we saw in game number 1, which is get the Warden to a 3/3 lifelinker, at which point it's tougher Okowita to overpower that. Even with Anderson on 5 cards, so Okowita 7.
Again, this is a situation where you can kind of see the splash hurting Chris a little bit. He does have another copy of Warden in his hand that he can't cast. And if you remember watching Majors play last week in Indianapolis, and we saw him quite a few times, one of the things that was nice about Michael's deck, as you see Abbott reveal to us at Firecraft, a bit of a fist pump here from Chris. Michael's mana was so good last week, and part of the reason for that, he got to play like 10 basics.
Yeah, his lands were coming into play untapped all the time.
Yeah. And that's a very nice quality to have. It's really understated how powerful that is.
And there's a reason that the kind of aggressive 2-color decks don't necessarily go to the 3rd color. For a Tarka Red, for me, a Smoldering Marsh allowing a splash for a self-inflicted wound, very attractive.
Yes.
Could easily convince myself about doing that. But are you willing to play with the Smoldering Marsh that you're going to draw in your opening hand and it's going to be annoying sometimes? You know, you acknowledge you're not always going to be able to fetch it at a moment's notice, so that you're taking on a little bit more variance to have the right flexibility or the right parallel for the deck. But those options are definitely there. Dispel right now feels like a great splash to me, and Anderson's going much heavier in the sideboard with additional counter spells. For a Tarka Red, the black cards are there if you want them.
Well, it's time for attacking. Warden going to go to level 2. Little lifelink, that'll work just fine. Anderson going to gain some life. We saw Warden play a huge role in game 1. It's doing that yet again. He'll be able to play a backup Warden, pass a turn back.
Very important for Anderson to have a backup play, even though this looks like a really good spot here, because if he didn't, a removal spell for the Thopter into a pump sequence could kill him even from here.
Well, Wild Slash took care of that new Warden. Okowita with Zergo. He's dashing that. He's coming into the red zone. Thopter token cannot block fast enough. Titan strength here on Zergo. Means that there will be a prowess trigger on the Abbot, which will mean it wins the fight there over the Thopter token. 5 damage will be dealt to Anderson, but if Anderson's able to peel off a land here, well, it's real safe to go to the top rope.
Yes.
So he'll untap. He'll take a draw step. How'd he do? It's a Nissa.
Almost.
It sort of qualifies as a land. He'll play that. He'll search for a forest here.
It feels like that should work.
It really
but
does.
It's not.
So Anderson will trigger the Nissa. He'll search for a basic forest. And that'll enter the battlefield. Last card in Anderson's hand right now is a copy of Master of the Unseen, and we might see him deploy that this turn as well. So there's the Mastery.
Now, this is a tough spot for Anderson. Remember, Okowita scribed to the top last turn.
A little scary.
You know, you wonder, do you just hold everything back? Give yourself the best chance of blocking, because, again, it does not take a ton for Okowita to kill here. And by attacking, you no longer force him to have a trample effect. You no longer force him to have battle rage to be able to set up a kill. Now, removal spell plus become a menace kills you.
You are certainly opening the door.
I mean, even land heel cutter become immense. You know, there's a lot more kills available to Okowita now than there was on the previous turn. And I don't know if going from 6 to 9 on Anderson's side of the table is really worth it, especially if he gets out of this turn fine, then Warden becomes a monster and probably wins the game by itself.
There's Zergo. No dash this time. Just going to pass the turn back.
So Anderson is in the clear, you know, almost no matter what. I suppose the concern is if you use your turn going all the way to the top with Warden, then Atarka's command is problematic. But now he gets the best of both worlds. By drawing the 7th land for Nissa, he can make an elemental to have an extra blocker back and go all the way up with Warden to force the hand on Atarka's command.
Yeah, this turn's interesting because he can go the elemental route. He can move up Nissa and maybe see what he finds. He can activate Mastery. Like, there's a lot of different ways he can go. It looks like he's going to start with just attacking with Warden. And, you know, for what it's worth, he can just make this attack and just say, okay, do you have, like, I don't have to go all the way to the top, you know? And he does have a Tarkus command, does Alex. But I kind of like this turn of Chris because I think Chris is just fine with gaining 3. He doesn't have to gain 300.
Right.
So Command will do a nice job here for Okowita. We'll see how Anderson wants to use Nissa.
I mean, at this point, I feel like Anderson just has to put 2 blockers into play. He needs to make an elemental and have a mastery token available.
Yep. There's your elemental. 4/4 on the battlefield now. And Anderson will just pass the turn back. Closer than it appears. I feel like Okowita was getting ran out of this one, but the ability to deal so much damage to become immense, Titan Strength, and those combination of cards, it's pretty scary stuff.
Atarka Red is just a hard deck to play against.
Yep.
This iteration, you know, Okowita's he's shown pump spells, he's shown a different creature base, he's shown exquisite firecraft. Anderson's got to play around a lot of different stuff.
Anderson doesn't have what we have, which is the deck list in front of us.
Yep.
He doesn't have that privilege. Attackers. Now from Chris, I think I might want to activate that Lumbering Falls instead of manifesting, but I think it's close. Lumbering Falls just feels safer as a blocker because of hexproof.
Yeah, if you go make a mastery token and Okowita goes before blocks Wild Slash, now you're in some trouble potentially.
Yep.
This block is much safer. With that said, Anderson can still die. With the right mixture of cards here, Temur Battle Rage and Become Immense still kill him, but this is a much safer block against Wild Slash.
Well, there are the blockers.
Anderson functioning pretty well for a person on a mulligan to 5 cards.
Yeah, you know, I almost forgot that he did mulligan to 5 cards this game. He has done just fine.
Well, Hangerback Walker plus Dramoka's command caught him all the way up in terms of card count.
Yeah. Those cards have a way of doing that, I suppose. Okowita kind of shuffling the cards back and forth in between his hand, but it is decision-making time here for Alex. He's going to lose his squadron. Well, there's Exquisite Firecraft to take care of the Warden.
And Anderson is just fine with that.
Chris going to untap very quickly. He'll take a draw step. If that Exquisite Firecraft's not going upstairs, life is pretty good. Nissa the draw here. Second copy of that, not particularly good. So he'll take up the first one. There's a Forest. Elemental going to come. It's 6/6. Heading back Okowita's way. Anderson with the ability to activate Mastery twice here. Here's a Dragon Fodder. 2 Goblins. They might be flattened here very quickly by Anderson's large creatures. Mastery trigger. Here comes the first manifest. It's a Hidden Dragon Slayer. I've seen worse. Next one's a Prairie Stream. Now we go back to Chris, looking to attack for lethal this turn. He'll take a draw step here. Picked up another copy of Hidden Dragon Slayer. Nissa will move up to 3. Windswept Teeth will enter the battlefield from Nissa. Lumbering Falls, getting ready to lumber across into the red zone.
And with Hidden Dragon Slayer plus the Mastery of Unseen trigger, Anderson gains enough life here if he wants it, where he can be very aggressive in attacking and trying to finish off the game this turn.
Looks like the manifested Prairie Stream is going to hang back on defense. Chris playing it a little safe just in case.
And with this attack, Okowita needs to double chump block or he dies.
Well, Chris is going to unmorph Hidden Dragon Slayer right away. You'll get a trigger there from Master of the Unseen. Some life will be gained. And it's an attack for 6 right now. And that's going to do it. Chris Anderson going to win this match here over Alex Okowita. 2-0. Bat Megamorph will take down Atarka Red. And for Chris, the blue cards didn't play much of a role there, but Life Gain certainly did.
Yes, and that build that Okowita is playing this weekend, able to interact a lot more than DeMars's build, but a lot less explosive. And there was a couple spots there where, in both of those games, where Anderson kind of had to cross his fingers and hope that Okowita didn't have the mixture of cards to kill him. And the construction of Okowita's deck means he's going to have it way less frequently. He's on only the 1 copy of Become Immense. He's playing with 4 copies of Exquisite Firecraft. So he is much more vulnerable to blockers than DeMars was last weekend. And Anderson slowly but surely clawed at the board with Hangerback Walkers and Gideons and other threats. And